appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming to our Lunch and Learn for Career Advancement Skills. I appreciate your time. Just so y'all know ahead of time, I'm recording today's session so that we can make it accessible to those who couldn't be here today because of scheduling conflicts. But we're going to go over some things today I think will be of interest to you. So I want to go over first what our objectives for the course is today. The main thing that we want to focus on is how to identify and acquire new skills in relation to how to advance your own career. Some of these things are things that maybe you've heard before, but maybe we can put a new spin on it to help you in furthering advance yourself. And when I talk about the concepts today, just as an aside, I went about it in very general terms as opposed to, specifically here's your plan at Hill College. I know that people have different career plans and goals, and maybe they're looking at different institutions, so I try to keep it more general in nature. We're going to go over some tips, including some little known tips in relation to career advancement, techniques, best practices. We're going to test your knowledge, talk about networking, resume and portfolio building, interviewing, impression management, and then we'll have some reflection. So first I have this really neat little pie chart up here. I don't think I have no, I don't have a pointer. And I got this from the Harvard-Stanford Research Center in Carnegie Foundation. I always think this is one of my favorite graphics, first of all because it's easy. I like it when it gives me two things to look at. And because I think it really drives home a point. When people are looking to get into the workforce, managers report that they want two things. First is the technical component. That's why you go to school. It's to learn the technical component of your career. If I want to be a welder, I go to school to learn the skill of welding, et cetera, et cetera. And that accounts for a chunk that is important. We got 15% of the skills people look for are those technical skills in relation to your field. But the whopping 85% that folks look for are people skills. I think we don't think about this very often. That tells me that the other things we need to look into are interpersonal, communication, relational skills that will help us advance. Aha! So first, since we're at a lunch and learn and you're supposed to have fun, let's test your knowledge with a quiz!
Great.
So these are some things that you might encounter in interviewing or networking with other folks. And so I want you to tell me true or false what you think you should do in these scenarios. When greeting someone for the first time, a cupped handshake, that's where I'm going to shake the hand and cover it up like this, is a good way to show my sincerity and interest. You say no. What do you think?
No.
No. And why do y'all think no?
That's too personal.
It's too personal, right? I think it gives the opposite impression. It's not as sincere. It's almost condescending, like, hello, you're so lucky to meet me kind of thing. So good job. At an interview or meeting, it is generally necessary for me to stand only when a woman walks in the room, regardless of my gender. True or false?
False.
False? I think false. False. It's actually appropriate and good etiquette to stand no matter if it's a woman or a man that enters the room. Just acknowledging someone's presence, right? Next, at job fairs and other professional settings, when I receive a business card from someone, I should take the time to really read the card before putting it in my pocket.
Yes.
Yes, true. This is because our brains are wonderful little creatures and they love to make associations. And the best way to make association is to take one thing and put it with another. So in the moment when you meet someone and you're face-to-face and you get their business card, taking a chance to read it while you have them in front of them will help your brain to build those connections to help you to remember them down the line, which again helps you to give a good presence and interpersonal impression when you meet somebody. Hey, if you remember my name and who I was and what I did, that's going to stick with me, right? People love to talk about themselves, so kind of goes in line with that. I should always turn off or silence my cell phone or beeper before heading into an interview or business meeting.
Yes.
Thinking if you have a beeper, probably you're a doctor, because that's all we use those for anymore. But yes. Right, but wait, my wife's having a baby and I have to have the phone on at that time. Or wait, I have, I'm so important, I've got like, I got to play worms, and so I need to make sure, if so-and-so on the other end dings me, that I'm going to be able to play them back very quickly, right? All these things are not good excuses. No, not quite. The best position on this is that if you're too busy to be able to not hedge out an hour or so in your day for these meetings, it might be better to just schedule for a different time, one that makes more sense for you. In dining situations, my drinks are on the right and my bread plate is on the left.
True.
Those are hard one. True, what do you think? True, how'd you know?
Taking a dinner etiquette class.
Oh, okay, good. A little trick to it is if you put your hands in front of you like this, okay, you'll make a B and you'll make a D.
For a
D,
drink.
your drink side, B, your bread side. Nice little tip. But don't continue the whole rest of the lunch eating that way. I think that would be good. When I'm on an on-site interview, if I get a parking ticket while at the interview, I can just add the cost to the expense for the reimbursement. The company said, we'll reimburse you for your cost. So if I get a ticket on site, I should be able to put that in my reimbursement. True or false?
False.
False. What do you think?
Not without permission to do that.
Yeah, not without permission. And why do you think false?
Under the pretenses that you're going to follow the rules and not park somewhere with
Yeah, exactly. We probably shouldn't let the company have to pay for mistakes we make, right?
Right.
After a job interview, regardless of whether I'm still interested in the job or not, I should always follow up with a thank you note.
True.
True. And this is because we never know what might happen in the future. And we don't know if the CEO of this company is friends with the CEO of the company and what to do. When I know a company I'm interviewing with is having a casual day, and I'm interviewing on the day, it's best to dress down for the interview.
False.
Why not? They're casual. Why can't I be casual? Why do y'all think?
Because you give the impression you're always casual.
Yeah. Right, this isn't the time for the standard operations for you, right? This is your chance to make that impression, and you want it to be your best face, right? So, overdress. When in doubt, overdress. Always overdress. During an on-site interview, it's okay to order a cocktail before the meal, or wine with my meal, when everyone else is drinking. I think this is a tough one. What do y'all think?
You don't want to come across as being disapproving of what they're doing, but at the same time, you don't want to appear too casual.
Yeah, what do you think? Same things, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would recommend don't. Because, again, you don't want anything to take your judgment in a direction you don't want it to go. And I would doubt that in most scenarios that people would even notice that you weren't drinking. I think people would even be understanding, they're the ones being interviewed. They're the ones that have to be on high alert. I don't. I'll have my glass of wine. I think it's sensical in that type of scenario to be able to do that, and it would make the most sense to everyone involved. When at a meeting, when people wear name tags, it is best to put my name tag on my right chest or shoulder area. What do you think? Stuff that I never thought about thinking about. Do you think this shoulder's good? I mean, y'all are only two, so I'm just waiting for y'all to tell me.
I always put mine on my left, but I'm thinking in the direction that you shake somebody's hand,
Yeah.
usually with the right hand.
That's what
And
I was-
so,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's exactly why you want to do that, is because when you shake someone's hand, it gives them a great, easy way to see your name. That puts people at ease, because then they don't have to go, oh, I don't know if I remember this person. They can easily see it, right? Couple more. When talking on the phone with a potential employer, it's okay for me to put them on hold while I answer another phone call. No. And this messes you up because you take out the flow of the conversation. You never want to stop the flow and the rapport. Okay. I always avoid asking questions at an interview because it's rude to interrupt the interviewer by asking questions.
A good interviewer will finish the interview with, do you have any questions? And that's the appropriate time and place for that, unless it's, he gives a pause and allows you to ask that question. But usually you wait till the end.
I think it's always important to ask questions at the end, throughout, whatever. I let them finish their sentence, of course, but I do think it's important to have questions available because any company, just like you yourself, we love talking about ourselves, okay? Again, psychologically, this is a big thing for us. Companies are the same way. We love talking about how great we are. I love talking about Hill College, especially when I'm in interviews and people ask me questions about, like, why did you come here? What do you like about it? I'm like, oh, I love it, because we love talking about things we're a part of. And so I think it's appropriate and it helps to build that exchange. During an on-site interview, when dining out, I always rest my soup spoon and butter knife on the saucer or plate rather than on the table.
Sure.
Yeah, that's how you do. The rules of etiquette aren't as important in businesses that are more laid back. True or false?
Rules of etiquette are rules of etiquette.
Applies no matter where. No matter what type or level of job I'm applying for, I always go out of my way to greet the receptionists and secretaries with sincerity. What do y'all think?
Yes.
Yes. And why is that?
Because she may be the gatekeeper to the whole operation.
Exactly. The people who work the front entryway could, if you turn them off in some way, can prevent you from that meeting you want to have with them. Oh, every time you come by, they seem to be out of the office. Right? You've got to be careful. And you know, think about the boss. They may have a very strong connection with that person. That's their point person. And, you know, they may come up to him afterwards and say, hey, what did you think of A, B, and C applicant? Which one did you like the most? Which one came and had a good rapport with folks? Did you notice any, you know, who?
It's really bad when they give a signal behind your back as you go into the office.
Yeah, let's not have that happen. In general, employers want communication, interpersonal skills, honesty, integrity, teamwork, leadership, and initiative. So here's some habits to help you to advance your career. Know your career mission and pursue it. Within that, I'm talking about knowing your talents, your interests, and your values. People who are happiest and more successful are so because they have a good understanding of what their job entails. That might be for you looking at your job description, looking at all the key essential functions of it, and making sure you have a good, broad understanding of what that all entails. Understand that just competence alone is not going to beget success. Just because you have the technical skills, again, doesn't mean you're going to be successful. And don't assume, and again, I'm saying this generally, don't assume that your boss always knows what's best. A lot of times, and this is sad, this is not just, you know, this happens everywhere. A lot of times people don't get recognized unless it's for something wrong they did. Because we're busy, right? And sometimes you need to ask for what you want. Make sure you speak up and let your manager know what your goals are. When you think it's appropriate for you to have the discussion about, is this time for advancement for me here? The manager isn't a mind reader. I love this concept. I found this when I was researching for this particular presentation today. Becoming an entrepreneur. Has anyone ever heard of this term? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have? Essentially, the idea is instead of looking at where you know, an entrepreneur we know is someone who develops their own business, right? They go out on their own, do it on their own. They don't work for the man or anyone else. Entrepreneurs look at each business they work at as if they owned it. And that puts a really interesting spin on how your productivity looks. You want to look at yourself as opposed to an employee, because nowadays, to be frank, lifetime employment isn't necessarily a guarantee anymore. So any employment agreement you go into, you should look at it as a chance to be what they call a long-term consulting agreement. So don't assume that you'll be there forever. Look at it as a long-term consulting agreement you have with this institution. And within that consulting agreement, you're looking at focusing on doing and learning as much as you can and being ready to move on if needed.
The best way I ever heard that put was start training your replacement.
Yeah. You know, we used to hold on to information and be scared that that resource needed to be only ours, or otherwise we were going to be thought of as not as replaceable. But now we're moving towards the understanding that training a replacement can help you also have that backup that you need in your role. And again, builds us up for the idea of being an entrepreneur, right? We're consulting, we're doing work to help the institution overall. But we don't have the ownership of the knowledge because we can take that knowledge elsewhere. We don't have to worry about it just institutionally. Take some career development risks. Seize opportunities and don't waste on hope and wait. sitting around hoping that your supervisor will recognize that you deserve this promotion or this advancement opportunity. And trust your gut. Don't let logic override your intuition. Network, network, network. There's going to be even more about that in my next slide. But even when you're not job searching, networking is a huge, important thing for us. We use this skill when we're looking from everything from pediatricians to plumbers to work to our dating life. It's who you know, right? Those connections can help opportunities that you may not have thought of come your way. People would remember you, think of you. And how do you make these networking connections? There's a lot of great ways that you can do that. I recommend being involved in your area or your profession, I guess I should say, associations related to your profession or the profession that you're interested in being a part of. Get on job boards. Ask questions of those that are currently in the field. These are ways to really help you to build connections and associations with folks in the areas which you're interested in. In anything in your business interactions, you need to make sure you're always trying to come out with a win-win solution. And I say that because, again, the old way of thinking in relation to business was that it's kind of dog eat dog, and I want to leave them bruised and bleeding in the hallway, right? I'm the one that wants to win because winning for me means advancement. Instead of looking at it in that way, think about this. Those that we leave bruised and beaten in the hall, we might have to work on future projects with. And humiliation doesn't really breed any kind of good relationship. And as we saw before, relationships are essentially a huge key in advancement opportunities. Fake it until you make it. I don't mean be a fake. I don't mean go out there and be something you aren't. But I do think that sometimes we can develop within ourselves a self-doubt about what we can achieve or do. So say you're doing something that's out of your comfort zone. You've got a big presentation you got to get ready for, a big project. If you look at it with the idea that, hey, I can do this and I have the ability to, then the confidence can actually beget success. A healthy fear and stress can actually help us. There's I didn't bring the chart in it, but there's a term in psychology that kind of shows this, where there's a certain amount of fear or stress that you can put onto yourself that brings you to peak performance. Too much, and you're going to go down, and too little, you're going to go down, but there needs to be a healthy amount to give you that peak performance you need. There was an interesting a book, by Richard Wallace called The 3 Boxes of Life. Has anyone ever heard of this? Basically, he said you're looking at how we look at our world right now is within 3 boxes. The first is from birth to 21, and that's our learning box. Within this time span of our lives, this is our time to learn as much as we can about the world around us. We're in school, we're making mentors, we're getting colleagues, we're trying to learn more about our field. Then from 21 to 65, a huge span of our life, we move into our working box. And then our world becomes all about our work. And the problem with looking at our world in that capacity is that if we weren't working, we associate that with our self-worth. And without work, we feel like we're not worth anything. Which brings to the 3rd box. From 65 and on, we tend to move back to our fun box. We have retired, our time becomes our own again. And this dude said, the best way to look at life is instead of these 3 boxes, combine them all together. Have a healthy balance of work, education, and fun. Without that healthy balance, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, especially if you only connect your worth with your working. It's a huge time in our life. That's a huge span in our life to be working. I think it was like, I saw 80,000 hours of our life, something like that is not working. Network, network, network. Like I said before, networking is very important. Now, y'all ever heard of LinkedIn? Yes, yes. They've got 3 million members. The highest, most popular way of socially connecting professionally. In fact, I saw on the news today, Facebook is looking at a Facebook at work site. I think that's what they're going to name it. I think that it's not too bells and whistling, but whatever. And it would basically be following LinkedIn's model and have a resource to use Facebook, but only for professional terms and needs. According to JobVite recruiter survey, they found that the use of social media for recruiting has been expanding, and they continue. They expect that it'll continue to grow. 92% of recruiters have actually hired through LinkedIn, 24% on Facebook, and 14% on Twitter. So I say this because networking, as we used to think of it, isn't the way it necessarily is today. It's not always going to the after hours with the Chamber of Commerce and having a couple of cocktails. We can do networking now more effectively online. We can make connections of folks from previous employment 10 years ago, maybe otherwise we would have never seen again, right? It's an easy, wonderful way to connect ourselves. Please, if you don't have one, get one, and make sure you put information on there to really get your name out there. There are ways to connect with references online and have them recommend you for opportunities. These connections are very helpful to have. Again, you want to make sure you have a goal in mind with a realistic time frame. What's your career path? Don't wait for someone to meet with you to do it. Sit yourself down and write down what are your goals, what is the path that you'd like for yourself. And look around your organization. What is the dream team that you see? What are the projects that you see and you go, man, I wish I was a part of that project. I wish I was a part of this. Those areas, departments, and projects that you see that you like, make connections with folks in those areas. Build relationships. Figure out how you need to get where you want to go. You're going to have to do some research. Is it something within your capacity to achieve? You might need another degree. You might need a degree. It might take a couple of years in a position in order to achieve that other position that you want, right? You might have to learn programs you've never even heard of before. A lot of the way to help develop your career is researching. What I found is a good tip is to take, and I put this in my calendar, every week I put in a calendar an hour of time that I spend researching my field. It could be as easy as Googling what's new in HR, what have you, going through my HR magazines. Make sure you're putting into your schedule time for this type of development and research. Speak to those folks that have the role today. Ask them how would they get to the role they're in now. Okay, they've been there, right? They already swam the path to where you want to be. Now that they know what it took, maybe they would have changed something, right? Would they have taken a different path? Do they have any tips on a shortcut they could take? And again, use those online resources and groups. There's ways to ask questions. Some little known ways to advance your career is to speak up first. Showing enthusiasm and interest shows folks that you have potential for growth. Before you go to any meeting, any committees, any whatever, do your research. Look over the agenda, look over the topic, be prepared with statements and things to talk about. Every meeting you go to, don't be that one that sits in the very back row and says nothing. People who sit in the back row and say nothing do not get advancement opportunities. Just here to tell you today. Sitting in the hot seat, in fact, is how you get those opportunities. Sit close to the meeting's presenters. That ensures you're seen and heard, and you're in the center of the action, and the center of the action means more participation opportunities. Again, make sure you're exercising your bragging rights. I made the joke about the popular quote, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, nowadays it's kind of also who knows you. If a group of administrators or management, wherever you're at, if they were sitting around a table and a cool opportunity came around, would they even think of your name? Do they know who you are? You want to be on the top of someone's list or lips. This is a tough one. You got to go beyond the call of duty. This might include asking colleagues how you can help with their workload, asking and doing tasks outside your job description, volunteering, and getting out of your comfort zone. Also, it's important to learn the skill of accepting credit graciously. A lot of times it's very hard for many folks to be able to say, thank you when someone gives you a compliment. But it's best to spin it in a good way. Thank graciously. Say, yeah, I'm glad all that hard work I put into this project really worked. It all came through in the end. the team and myself, we worked really hard on this. Being able to just not go, oh, it was nothing. If you say, oh, it was nothing enough, soon people will go, oh, it was nothing, right? So make sure you're bringing to the forefront all of these things that you've done, and including, taking that credit in a good way. And be careful about accepting credit that isn't yours either. That'll only come to bite you. A little known way to invent your career also includes shooting the breeze. Best way, I guess, to put it's water cooler talk, right? Not that I'm saying stand around all day and do nothing, but building connections with your coworkers can help build camaraderie and build new contacts. Getting around the offices, meeting others outside your department, going to different buildings, this is a way to meet people, right? You never know the connections that someone can bring to your table. Eat, drink, and proper dining decorum. The business lunch is becoming more and more frequent, which is why I had some of those true false about how to do a business dinner. There's certain things that managers have reported that were like turnoffs for them in these scenarios, including being rude to the wait staff, arriving late, eating messy foods, constantly checking your phone, which is so hard for all of us, and broaching business before the order is placed. You might think that means that you care a lot, so go ahead and bring it up. But also, you don't want to seem too overbearing. These meaningful connections through networking can also be found via conferencing. Find events related to the area that you're interested in and go to them. Sometimes, depending on if they're related to your current opportunity or your current role, your manager might be able to even support them and pay for you to go to them. And give thanks. Just like I said when I was talking about when you go for an interview, you need to do thank you notes. You need to do thank you notes for those that help you within your development of your career. Someone who looks over your resume, someone who serves as one of your reference. Notes for help and sincere thank yous go a long way. You stand out from the crowd because not everyone does it really. And it improves your chances that someone might help you again in the future. Real quick, the resume and portfolio. I don't want to talk too much about interviewing, but I think it is an important part of how to advance your career. I would recommend that your resume stays one page. And this one page, I want it to be one watermarked page. So paper isn't just paper. I don't want any construction paper, pink paper, smelly paper. I just want a watermarked piece of resume paper. And I say one page because, as startling as it might be, most recruiters look at your materials for 6 seconds and they already make a judgment, an initial impression about you on if they want to pursue you further or not. And within those 6 seconds, you need to do a lot of bang for your buck. Lists with bullets, very short abbreviated statements of your background. That's the best way to get attention. I know it's hard because I'll sit there and go, well, I want to tell them all the great things I've done, and I'm just going to, and I've got books and books and books and lists of all the great things I've done, right? But the problem is, all I'm trying to do in this particular part of the process is get my foot in the door. I will have a chance to go through my laundry list and my book once I get that interview, right? Which is why you should have a portfolio. The books that I was talking about of great things I've done in my life should be in a portfolio. I think these are moving more electronic now too. But you just want to have something on your desktop that whenever you do something, like today I'm going to go back to it and I'm going to bring up my document, my portfolio, I'm going to say, I did a presentation about career advancement skills today. I'm going to put the date on it, I'm going to save it, and I've got this huge laundry list of all the things I've done in my life. It's easy now electronically because we can keep up with it more than we did. Oh, I'm going to keep this paper, I got to keep this, recommendation, all this stuff that we used to keep. You want to build a portfolio for yourself of what's going on in your life. So that way when I do apply for a job, say I'm looking to be a recruiter, I'm going to go through my huge list and I'm going to say, oh, that advancement training, they might think that's pretty cool. I'm going to pull that out and put that on my resume for this particular set of interviews. What I'm really saying to you is you want to tweak your resume according to the position you're applying for. Give it that spin. So keep up with the portfolio so you can pull the stuff out that's most pertinent for that job. A handshake is, again, a first impression component. You want eye contact, you want it to be firm, about 3 seconds. And you don't want it to be one of these 3 things. The fish, which is whenever you have someone finishing your hand around. That sounds really, right? Or the gorilla, which is the opposite, where they're trying to break your hand off. Or the awkwardness, which is the hi, I really like shaking your hand. How are you today? It's too close and familial, right? Good, firm, 3-second handshake is what you should do. For the sake of time, I'm not going to show this clip, but I'll send it to y'all later. In an interview, you want to make sure that you're also dressing appropriately. And there was a study that I pulled, oh gosh, I can't remember where it's from now. But the truth of the matter, folks, and I'm trying to be blunt here, the way you look actually has an impact on your advancement opportunities. I'm talking clean, brushed hair, you smell good, you look good, your clothes look nice and put together, things are tucked in, things are not raggedy, you're not wearing jeans every day, you're not trying to wear sneakers because you can get away with it. You are trying to always look like you might have that interview with the CEO in the elevator at any moment. I'm telling you, as much as I hate to say it, that kind of stuff does go far. So look at that sheet that I gave you. That's something you're, oh, smart. Those are really good conservative, a conservative overview of what you should wear in an interview setting, both business casual and professional, so I'm going to get you all through one of those. First impressions are very important. If you're not early, you're late. When you go into an interview, I recommend being there early because you never know what kind of paperwork they might have for you, or maybe we're running ahead of schedule, and how nice it would be if we came out and said, oh, look, you're already here waiting. You must really want this job, right? So besides the dress, what else matters when you are getting ready for an interview in regards to appearance? You don't think? I know we're going real fast, but I just wanted to get through the content. Now I'm like, hey, talk to me again. You're like, what? What did you just say?
All accessories, perfume,
Yes.
cologne, those kinds of things.
What if you smoke?
That was a bad day.
Yeah. Try to avoid it. Try to avoid it when you're developing your resume too, because to be honest with you, the smell permeates the paper that you turn in. A lot of places do electronic now, but you don't want anyone to get a preconceived notion before they even get a chance to meet you. The types of interviews you might find are phone interviews, the traditional one-on-one setting, a group of the candidates, which is a really mean one where they have their top 3 people all sit in a line and they ask them questions all at the same time. Hopefully you'll never have to do that. An employer panel, that's a committee. We do this here at the college, so we have more than one person interviewing you. Business dinners, informal ones. And the was that an interview? Be prepared. You might have some interviewees who bring you in and ask you about how your day was, if you like to go golfing, and then they say, okay, we'll talk to you later, and you didn't get to talk anything about your skills or background. Think about how you can turn those conversations where they're talking about nothing into and twirl them over to an example of your previous work. They're talking about when you went fishing, you said, you know what, there was this time I went fishing, and I learned from that experience how to have perseverance because of A, B, and C. Right? So you can spin it around back to how that would help you in the business setting. The types of questions you might have are traditional, so why did you apply for this job? Or behavioral, I ask you, what have you done in the past? So give me an example of when you had a conflict with a coworker. That's behavioral. Or situational, where instead of asking you about your past, I say, okay, you are having a conflict with your coworker. Tell me how you would approach A, B, and C. Okay, so then I've provided the perimeters. Case studies, where that's more like a laundry list, right? We've got a couple of paragraphs about a scenario I want you to read and evaluate. And the crazy ones, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? Start thinking about what you would do if you were given a crazy question like that. Because you want to be able to not just answer it, but kind of twirl it in a way that shows your strengths. Like, I'd be an oak because oaks are sturdy and loyal and something like that. So y'all follow me on? You want to answer by looking at everything in relation to the STAR method of answering questions. What was the situation, background, etc. The task, the challenge and expectations, what needed to be done and why. The action, what specific actions did you take, and what were the results. And then if possible, you want to quantify those results. I had a 50% increase in productivity and blah, blah, blah. I've been doing really great in blah, blah, blah this year, by the way. Impress your company's leaders. Be an excellent outside rep. What really impresses managers is when you are the one that the customers are always calling and talking about. You know, Adrian helped me so much the other day. He's one of your best reps, blah, blah, blah. You want your important clients calling and singing your praises. Know your entire organization. Knowing just about your field and your area is great, but know about how your team connects into that organization. So, just for example, here at the college, for me, it would be good to know what's going on with student services and how the admissions process works, right? This is valuable for me to understand how my part of the team works with their part of the team, how they integrate with each other. This is impressive to a manager. Be well informed about your field, but don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't look at the information and say, okay, this is my field, it's HR, but it's only recruiting, and that's all I'm ever going to learn about. Because then, and in education. So if one day Amanda doesn't have a job here anymore, I just told myself I'm interested in understanding one particular area and at one type of place, and my skills may not be marketable. Just like what maybe happened to travel agents a couple, 10 years ago probably, with the invention of online searching, right? We don't want to become dinosaurs because we don't see what's going on around us. Again, look the part. Looking good matters. Toot your own horn, not only to your boss, but to your coworkers. Tell people the good things you have done. Maybe a weekly summary of your achievements. Keep a list of your major accomplishments. Advance your brand. Think of yourself as that consultant. How can you advance your brand? And don't be discouraged. A lot of times this takes time. It takes time to build up a solid, good reputation. Being consistent helps. My final thoughts, all right, pretty good on time.
You have till 1:15.
Oh, I do. I did not know that. I thought an hour. Oh, well. It's important to be personable and likable. Those who are rude, people don't want to be around, right? And they're also not first on the list when we think about promotion opportunities. Know what's important to your institution. Know what makes your boss tick. If you're looking at working somewhere and you might be dealing with an international company, research that company. What are you going to say?
Also, if you're dealing with international companies, know the etiquette and customs of your international clients.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. You need to know what's appropriate. What's an appropriate time to call? What's an appropriate way to interact? How to dress? You know, if I'm looking for a position and they have a siesta every day and that's the time I call, I'm not going to get very far, right?
The most common example is Japanese people think Americans are very rude and aggressive because we're used to going in, getting it done, and moving on. They take more time to consider that, and the social aspect is more important to them than what you're offering.
Absolutely. So look at Google. I mean, Google is amazing. Google the culture that you're going to be interacting with, and look at the things that you might need to be mindful of ahead of time. Communications is a huge deal if you're looking for advancement, guys. You want to make sure your communications are professional in nature, not only in written form, but when you're talking face to face. Sometimes it's good to practice in front of a mirror. Okay, that can help you build up your communication skills. Be careful what you're putting out in social media. Your emails, especially things like this. I would like to talk about forwards. Forward, read, clean this up so you've got one clear message, right? You want to make sure you're not lost in the rubble. And make sure your email that you're using for professional communications is professional. We don't want honeybear229@gmail or jacobsmom@gmail, right? Because that already gives me a preconceived notion, like it or not, about who you are. And then also you need to reflect on a couple of key things that could really influence your opportunities for advancement. If you're looking at advancing within your current institution, think about this. Are you someone in the institution who is often in trouble or often in spats with others? Are you often at odds with other folks? Do you come off as inflexible? If you're asked to do a project or to work on something new, are you often trying to pass the buck? Are you the one that everyone thinks of when I say the word complainer? What's your attitude like? What if you don't take on more than the minimum of your job? I tell you, more than probably anything, these type of things in your current institution can really kill you. Because no matter if you have all the technical skills in the world, if I find you to be inflexible and complain about everything, I know that you're going to turn off a lot of my customers. And I won't see how that's attractive to a hire. Here's my references. And do you have any questions? Good, I've covered everything.
Well, of course there is.